Welcome back to what is actually the final show. We decided to wait on this and to see if the Brandon Ayuk situation would resolve itself. Guess what? It did. This is your 2024 NFL Draft Guide and Primer. We are Jason Draven, Mike Burland, Neil Smith. One more time. We're going to take you through briefly the 49ers because weirdly, it's actually not that complicated. And good luck to everybody who's currently drafting and who's going to be drafting this weekend, which is when you should be drafting. So that's where we are. We're going to take you through this last team. We wanted to wait for the Ayuk situation to get resolved. It didn't. It doesn't really look like it's going to. The preseason is over at this point. So we've got a bye week, which has confused the living crap out of the general public. I've had that conversation 15 times this week, and it's Tuesday. It is Tuesday, August 27th. And I've had this conversation no less than 15 times about whether or not there are preseason games this weekend. So there you go, Mike. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Where people are like, where's my preseason? And I'm like, it's over.
Yeah,
what?
Done.
What? It's like, yeah, this is not the first year this has happened, by the way. This has happened before. Shows how much people pay attention. And what's funny is nobody watched week 4 of the preseason when it was happening. So why they're upset now, retroactively, I'm just sitting there like, I don't understand people. It's the reoccurring theme of my life, Mike, is that I just don't fundamentally understand people. I try.
Yeah, stop trying.
I just don't get it.
Yeah.
Y'all are confusing. You confuse the living crap out of me.
Good news is the first game should be fun. First real game should be fun.
First real game on the 5th of September, coming up right after Labor Day, which is Monday the 2nd. And also
only available on Peacock.
Right.
Lovely. Enjoy.
Only available on Pirate Bay. We do not condone pirating NFL games, nor would I ever recommend how to do that. I didn't recommend anything. I just merely named a place where you could do it. Now, I would warn you that I wouldn't do that unless you had the mother of all VPNs and antivirus software on your computer. Important Nonsense takes no responsibility for any trouble you might get in pirating a game on any service you may use. We are not responsible for your brick computer or your identity getting stolen or any of that garbage. But I do have to make my sarcastic comments about available only on not Peacock, because that's a curious decision if you ask me. But I'm not here to debate that with anybody. I'm here to provide fantasy football advice. Also, check out Fubo TV, sponsor of this podcast and our website. Are they doing that on Fubo? Or is it literally exclusive? I don't know.
I think I think Friday or Thursday and Friday it's just Peacock.
I should have thought this through a little better if you looked that up.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be, but we'll see.
I think a lot of people are going to do the thing I was talking about. So we don't condone that, nor do we recommend it, nor are we liable for any negative consequences that you may suffer as a result of doing something like that. That is the standard PSA. Did I get it? All right. That's our lawyer. We're good. We got it. We covered ourselves. For the record, we are not responsible for any negative consequences you may encounter for whatever it is you're going to do. I didn't recommend nothing. I didn't say nothing. That's on you. However, I do know a lot of people that are probably going to do that because I don't think a lot of people are signing up for Peacock.
I mean, you might get it for free if it's your first time. I don't know.
That's a good idea. Check and see if they are doing that and then cancel. I don't condone that either. Nor would I recommend that. So there you go. Yes, we got some weird exclusivity stuff going on, and there's going to be more of it. However, for the bulk of the season, we're back on Amazon for Thursday nights. So don't worry about it. If you're a Prime member, game's coming to you. Actually, in pretty good quality, too. I've noticed Amazon's done better over the last couple of years with just doing that properly and making it feel like a normal game and not some weird thing like that's like lagging and chopping, and like they've clearly spent the money. So, and they've hired real announcers, which is good too, because that first year was rough. That first year was ugly, but they seem to be figuring it out. So once again, we're going to go through this team. 49ers, last team, largely delayed because of the Ayuk show. We're going to, 12 team redraft, that type of deal. PPR scoring. That's the format. All the ADPs and ECR stuff comes courtesy of Fantasy Pros. We love Fantasy Pros. Jason and I are part of their ECR. Our rankings get slushed in with that. And there you go. So if there's anything that we feel is way wrong, we'll bring it up. We'll also do some nuggets for other formats along the way, should they be relevant. And one last time into the breach. And then tomorrow, actually, we are reconvening to record the wrap-up show, where we're going to go updating every team that needs to be updated take by take, about an hour. And then we're going to do a little PSA about a new feature that our friends at Sleeper have added regarding auto substitution. Sleeper, not a sponsor of this show, just people we think are cool. So there you go. That's all the PSAs. Brock Purdy. So Mason, who's not here today, he couldn't be here today, but he provided some very handy notes. Mason, I know, is very not sold on Brock Purdy or even really the 49ers for this year. And that's largely because John Feliciano hits the IR, which means you're going to have Dominic Pooney, who no one has ever heard of, famously, no one's ever heard of, is especially if you're tuning into this show. I'm not even sure I pronounced it right. That's how little no one's ever heard of this. I think I got it, but we'll find out. The comments will tell me. He's going to be starting at right guard. Okay, that's not great. It's not the end of the world. Here's what's a bigger deal. And we're going to go to Mike for this, who also spends his days at PFF grinding that analytics life. And Trent Williams is holding out. So a lot of people would argue, Mason would argue, that Trent Williams is actually the best player on the 49ers. That's his stance on the matter. And that's saying something considering the talent on this roster. But nobody is talking about this in fantasy circles. So he wanted to make sure we talked about it. So we will. Mike, what's your take on the whole Trent Williams holdout / is Trent Williams the best player on the 49ers?
Offensive player, I think he is. I mean, usually you point to the quarterback or someone else. But
we're not doing that here. You probably point to Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah,
McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk. But no, I think
even
it is.
I don't think it gets to the Christian McCaffrey utter statistical dominance.
No. I mean,
also, what's a household name of any of it? What's a household name? CMC.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the recognition. So.
Yeah. No, he's very, very, very important. So I think they're going to get it done. I think he's more important.
What position does he play?
The left tackle position.
There you go.
Trent Williams.
Blindside.
Yeah, which is, again,
we don't want to go. I'm not going into that. we are not affiliated with that, nor do I condone what happened. And nope.
It's what it's called.
Yeah, it is. But there's also a movie. And there's a big court case around a lot of this. I want none of it. But yes, Trent Williams is the left tackle. Why does that matter, Mike? Why is the left tackle so important?
Well, we won't say the name again, but like Jason just mentioned, you got to protect the quarterback. And, a lot of smart people say outside of the quarterback, the left tackle is the most important position. That's why they get the big bucks. It could just all kind of fall apart. You're already losing your right guard. You're starting a rookie there. I don't know who their backup tackle is and who they're going to be putting. It's no one nearly as good as Trent Williams is. It could just make, if you don't have an offensive line, your entire offense can fall apart. So these pieces we love, it's all affected by the offensive line.
On most teams, the second highest paid player behind the quarterback is the left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason why it's relevant here, is that when you mention money, it's important to point out the level of magnitude we're discussing here. Your left tackle, especially if they're good, like Trent Williams is, will be the second highest paid player likely on a lot of teams if they're good. You can't really undersell the value of a quality left tackle. Some teams, it might be a highly paid wide receiver. Some teams, the second highest paid player will be a lockdown corner. But for a lot of teams in the NFL, you're going to go through it, the salary cap, and you're going to find it's my star left tackle that's actually the second highest paid player. That's also the person that gets, how the quarterback gives out gifts to their O-line? That's the one whose gift is usually a little bit nicer. Especially when you're right-handed, like most players are. Like Brock Purdy.
I was trying to make sure. I wasn't sure if
Brock Purdy is right-handed. I already looked that up. Brock Purdy is a right-hander.
Is Josh Dobbs.
Josh Dobbs is the lefty, and then Tua is famously the other lefty. There's not many lefties.
That's why I wasn't sure. So
it's Dobbs is the backup. We don't care about that. So for the purposes of this, it could be a big deal that your protection might be not happening. And it's funny because Mason is correct. All the news that you see is about Ayuk holding out. It's not about this. And arguably, this could be. It's funny. The only media coverage I saw about it all offseason was today. Literally today, there was a news story about how Trent Williams has no plans on ending his holdout, and he's just going to not do anything. So he might not be coming. And normally I don't put too much stock in this because normally what happens is players will always report because of the way they revise the CBA in a post Le'Veon Bell world. Google it, kids, if you don't know what I'm talking about. There's a reason why they redid the CBA was because they couldn't keep allowing this holdout nonsense to happen. So now they've rewritten the rules to be insanely punitive to players where like you won't accrue a year of service time on your contract level punitive and they'll fine you. So that's the problem. The problem we run into here is that Trent Williams is actually one of the rare people that I don't even think he would care. Like he might be willing to just take the hit on the 1 year of service time on the contract, or he'd go out and play the minimum and then just, oh, my hamstring. Oh, okay. And then just go sit down. And that would be very bad for the long-term health of a lot of this stuff. So that being said, Brock Purdy opens as the QB 11. Jason, as you pointed out in the pre-show, he was the QB 7 last year at the end when all was said and done. And it's funny, I had came to that same thing independently without even talking to you, and I had to look it up because I didn't believe it. I was like, that can't be real. Yeah, it's real. So Purdy's already getting a discount. But are we concerned that even this is too much with two of his key contributors holding out?
I mean, if based on what I'm reading for Williams being off the field, if Williams isn't there, yeah, this is way too high. So Rich Rebar shared on X that with Williams,
Rich Rebar is a local beat reporter for the 49ers. He gets retweeted in the 32 for 30, the 32 beat reporter thing. He's good.
Yeah,
he's good.
So, and he looked it up. He did the work because that's what he does. Because he's a beast.
Literally what he's paid to do.
Yeah, but he's very good at it. And he made sure to make but with Williams on the field, 39.8% pressure rate, 5.4% sack rate, 1.7% interception rate, and 6.7 TD rate. That is insane. Without him, that TD rate goes to 2.6. The interception rate goes to 5.2. The sack rate goes to 6.1. And the pressure rate goes to 44.9%. That is just insane. So if Trent isn't there and you're trying to buy Purdy at this cost, it's way too high. I mean, that will drop him significantly. I mean, you're probably looking 8-9 quarterbacks that should go ahead of him at that point. Just because having a TD rate that's 2.6% is very detrimental to your offense.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That kills your numbers very quick. And I'm pretty sure that's really what boosted Brock Purdy last year when you look at his actual breakdown of.
Yeah, but go back to the pre-Brock Purdy years when it was Garoppolo. Why did Garoppolo keep getting hurt? Poor O-line play.
Yeah.
What did that do to the rest of the team? It cratered it. And I know Josh Dobbs, who is the backup, by the way, has been a very nice success story from a real NFL perspective. Like, came out of Tennessee. No one knew who that was. Really had a kind of his, like, as far as the public is concerned, like his big coming out party last year. But then look at how that coming out party ended. Got traded, bad O-line, goes in the tank.
Yeah.
So it's not great. Hey, at least Josh Dobbs has that aerospace degree to fall back on.
Yeah.
It's weird that you could actually run into a guy whose like actual fallback plan from the NFL is going to work at NASA. Like legitimately, he was accepted to go work at NASA. And he went to the NFL instead. And he stayed in contact with people at NASA. And they're like, no, when you're done, we have a chair. Like, you can come work for us. He has like a real degree. Like, he doesn't have like a communications degree. He has like, sorry to everyone I just offended with that. But I said what I said. Like, I'm not walking that back. I said what I said. Like,
well, it's like Duvernay Tardif, right? That dude is a doctor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or that other guy who's like an actual mathematician who plays O-line for like the Chiefs. He's like an actual, like real math scientist, like pure math, not like applied math. Like I've seen some of what he does. He posted some of it on Twitter at one point. I'm like, When did they start putting letters with it? Thank you for laughing at that. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, I've seen some of that. And I'm like,
Nope.
I could do a little bit of calculus, but geez. So I'm right there with you. Brock Purdy terrifies me this year. That's not even talking about the Ayuk thing. So I've actually been fading him in all of my drafts to where they've got him coming in around the QB 11, and I'm like, no, you're like QB 15, 16. Like I've got him down there with the Trevor Lawrences, the Seans, the I'd rather have Goff, like just because Goff's weapons are healthy and his O-line's healthy and they've spent the money. And I don't even love Goff, but all of Goff's games are in a dome this year because the
Or at
NFL
home.
is
Yeah.
the NFL is like trying. I don't
14
know
of the
that,
17
by the
games.
way. I don't want to hear about that comment. I don't have any information about that. It just feels that way to somebody who has no inside information on it, where I'm looking at his schedule like, what? Like, how did that work? Like, it felt deliberate because you had to make this schedule. They don't just put the names in a hat for the schedule and draw it. You know what I mean? Like, that's not how that works. So there you go. So I'm out on Purdy. I'll let someone else bite the bullet on that. If he's your backup quarterback and he gets faded by your whole league, different thing. But at his current ADP as to be my starting quarterback, I'm just going to keep punting quarterback and waiting, baby. If we've waited that long, we keep waiting. We hold the line. Like if we're waiting, we hold. You keep holding. And that's what I would recommend. Mike, what do you think about all this? I know we got your thoughts from a real football perspective, and I appreciate them. What about from fantasy?
I totally agree. I don't see much of a difference between guys like Purdy, Goff, Lawrence, like you said, and just looking at overall, PPR ADP here, guys going around Purdy, Xavier Worthy, Brian Robinson, Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, guys that are going to be usable startable pieces, right? And then you look at who's going around Trevor Lawrence. It's Khalil Shakir and J.K. Dobbins, potential there, but it's a lot. You're not as sure with those names. Pat Fryermuth, so it's just talking about, well, I can get, someone with big upside who's going to help me win, and I can draft a player who might just finish better than Brock Purdy 2 rounds later, 3 rounds later, even for Lawrence. So, yeah, I totally agree.
Okay. So I know that might be a little weird, which is why we spent some time on it to the general public, because it's like the general perception around this team is the team's going to be very good. And hey, if everybody actually is going to show up and play, I agree. They will be very good. But you start removing pieces and it's like, ooh, I don't like that. Because they have a really hard schedule, as they should. They've been good for a long time. They deserve to have a very hard schedule. So this is where it gets a little interesting. So, and then let's go to running back. So we've covered that. Josh Dobbs, you're not drafting Josh Dobbs. It's not happening. Like, don't worry about Josh Dobbs. CMC, I'm not spending a lot of time on this. CMC, good at football.
And it shows based on where he's drafted.
We'll do Mason's note. CMC is the best football player in the league. Sorry, Tyreek. Yeah. I don't really know of a better way to sum that up, so I'm not going to. He's the 1.1 in every format, in every league. Is anyone going to dispute that? Okay, perfect. So we agree. If you have the opportunity to draft Christian McCaffrey at the 1.1, you should do so. Perfect. Moving on. It's been a weird thing trying to figure out who the backup is to CMC, and that's not just this year. It's like a consistent theme because they keep trying to talk people up like Shanahan does, and then they'll give him a shot, and then what'll happen is someone will get hurt or like there's always something. And then they keep saying they're going to manage CMC's workload down the stretch, and then they just don't. And they just keep giving him the ball. And historically, that guy's been Elijah Mitchell. And actually, up until yesterday, if you would have asked me who's the backup to CMC, I would have said Elijah Mitchell. Well, guess what? Elijah Mitchell got placed on season-ending IR today. And they've been giving a lot of work to Jordan Mason, who has been with the team for quite a while. Yeah. So, Jason, how do you feel about Jordan Mason? Is Jordan Mason a handcuff?
Well,
do you feel inclined to handcuff CMC at all?
If you have to, like,
well, no.
I don't think it's necessary because I think you can pick him up at any point. But man, okay. So CMC has his track record of being what a quote unquote injury prone.
Yes.
So
in quotes, that needs to be like yeah, you go get into 300 car crashes a year and you tell me how your knee feels.
Yeah, but
when
that
you're
was
done with
also again with the Panthers where he was the guy forever.
It was all they had.
Yeah.
It was their only successful weapon, especially that last season.
Yeah. And so again, this is going to be his third year playing Jordan Mason, and he's been battling with whoever's been there. It's been hard to get over Elijah Mitchell. Now he doesn't have to worry about it. And so, I mean, I don't think he's necessary to hold on to because I think CMC's healthy. And if you spent 1 of 1 to get CMC or 1 of 2 to get CMC, you don't really need to hold on to him and have him clogging up that space because until something happened, you know what? Sundays, pick him up. Drop somebody, pick him up, just have him. That would be how I'd play that. If you have that one roster spot where you're playing around, you have somebody you don't care about, sure, throw Jordan Mason on the end of your bench. But to just draft, no. It's not happening.
Yeah, they might go back to like the old pre-CMC days where they just use a rotation of Jeff Wilson and Mostert and Mitchell and,
different people now.
Exactly.
Some of those people don't play there anymore just to not confuse anyone. Yeah.
Yeah, so now it's Jordan Mason and maybe the rookie Isaac Garendo, and who's an interesting athletic rookie, but it's going to be a waiver wire guy. It's going to be a guy, okay, you draft Jordan Mason, and then you probably, when injuries start hitting you're probably dropping him week 2 or 3. So
that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
Is that you're going to have to hold on to this for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And by the time you get there, you'll have gone through buys and you probably just won't be able to hold it. So the reality of it is that there's a reason that this guy doesn't have, like Mason doesn't have an ADP. To be fair, Elijah Mitchell didn't have an ADP either within draftable range. So there's a reason that I'm bringing this up is because I don't view this as one of the must handcuffs. The must handcuffs are things like Seattle, where you have like an heir apparent. Tampa Bay, because of the relative price points with this, and because I feel pretty confident that it would be Bucky Irving, like, just go. This, I think they signed somebody, and I think Mike's spot on. I think they would sign somebody, and I think it would be a committee. I think it would be Mason gets the first shot at this, and the minute he doesn't immediately succeed, he gets like 1 game to try and be the guy. And the minute that doesn't happen, this is now a committee. They'll go out and sign somebody literally after the game. Who do you like? Who's available?
Well,
by that point,
they do what they should be doing and use Kyle Juszczyk.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that either. They might use him a little more, but I don't think there's ever
that's what they should do because dude makes holes.
Probably use, and this is a good segue. They'll probably use Debo more. So
they probably would use Debo more. Right? They probably would use Debo more. Exactly. They'd go back to that plan, but they'd still sign somebody. It's just whoever's available who they happen to like. And there's plenty of guys available already because we're getting to cut down day. So there's already been a few guys that are on the market. Samaje Perine is probably going to be available here.
He's going back to the Bengals.
Maybe. Actually, that's a good call considering what happened. Donta Foreman would be. Donta Foreman is the poster child for this.
Perfect.
Now that what's his name is retired, played for the Eagles. Not Boston Scott.
Oh,
no, not Boston Scott. Played for the Eagles for a cup of coffee. I'll look this up. There was a guy who used to he had a D in his name. Starts with D. And it's not Boston Scott. I will look this up and talk amongst yourselves. No, not Darren Sproles. Not Darren Sproles. He was too little. He was too little. No, I'll look this up. I have a guy in mind who came off the bench, like literally off his couch, like 3 different times. He played for the Giants was the last time. And it was just like, what? Like, he's still active?
I think I know who you're talking about, but I can't think of his name either.
It's going to hit me as soon as I'm not trying to think of it. It's one of those things because I'm trying to think of it. I can't. So at some point, it will just pop into my brain. But within that, they will sign someone who does that kind of thing. Donta Foreman is this generation's version of what I'm talking about, where it's like he just comes off the couch. And then he comes in and plays well, and then he never lands with any team long term. So that's That's what this is, where it's I could see something like that happening. So there you go. There's no reason to handcuff like CMC to anything. It's just CMC, and then just move on. And then yeah, Jordan Mason, we could have that conversation. I wouldn't do what Jason's talking about, where I'm constantly ad dropping. I would just wait until something happened and then made a decision in my mind about how much of my fab budget I was willing to commit to Jordan Mason. That's what it would be. So wide receiver is interesting because it's not a very deep room. You only have so many like guys that are even going to see the field here because they have a pretty solidified roster. You have Deebo Samuel, whose ADP has actually been rising because of the situation we're going to talk about next. So Deebo Samuel opens as the wide receiver 13. His ADP is 31. You'll notice that he's coming up draft boards. That's because Brandon Ayuk, still on the team, has been loudly holding out, and he wants a new contract, and there's a conversation around this, and I know we've got some of that going on. So Brandon Ayuk opens as the wide receiver 18. His ADP is 37. That's flip-flopped from when we started these shows. It was very much the reverse of that. And now, as we get close to kickoff in about a week and a half, we're getting to 2 weeks. We're like almost 2 weeks exactly from that. So you've got those two guys. Those are the guys everybody knows. Then you have this year's incoming rookie, Ricky Purcell, who his ADP is outside draftable range. He's already beat up. And to be honest with you, I'm not going to recommend drafting Purcell. I don't think anybody is. Even Shanahan, I don't think would recommend you draft Purcell for your fantasy team. And then you have Jawan Jennings, who also has no ADP. So that's your room. It's not a deep room. There's two guys you care about, and the rest is like not something that you're going to worry about drafting. I'll do Mason's notes here, and then I want to hear from fellow PFFer to Mason, Mike, first, because I have some real football questions that I want to tackle first, and then we'll do fantasy. So Mason notes, you cannot talk about these wide receivers without talking about the whole room, right? So you're talking about Ayuk's trade request. Purcell has been hurt for all of camp. And then their starting X receiver for week 1 is going to be Chris Connolly, who, if you know who Chris Connolly is, hit the like and subscribe button because you're home. You're home. You found your people. Like, we'll talk to you about Chris Connolly. Like, no one else knows who that is.
He's
So
everywhere.
So let's talk about, and then he also goes on to note that, well, let's just pause there. How do we feel about some of this stuff? Mike, real football. How likely do you think it is that Ayuk just does what Mason has alleged, goes out and just says, my knee, and then just goes and sits down for the year, basically? How likely do you think that is?
I mean, there's always that chance. I feel like that narrative always kind of floats around with one or two players every year. I can't really remember ever seeing it play out that way. I know Jonathan Taylor was one of those last year where people were floating that around, and then he gets signed. And so I don't know, maybe he's willing to sit out a couple more games, but it's like, are you really going to go in that locker room and do that in November? And this team wants to win a Super Bowl. I know they want to get paid and stuff. So I think if he's out there, he's out there. The question is, now we're at the point, like you said, first game is a little over a week. The Sunday games are, a little less than 2 weeks away. Like, if he signs now, is he even going to be there for week 1? We're not sure. Definitely by the weekend, if he's not signed, he's already, like, you're not starting him. You're not going to have him for week 1, Ayuk. So it's concerning for sure. I mean, he seems to want big time money. And the question is he worth it compared to is he Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb? Is he Tyreek Hill? Should he be getting that kind of money? And the Niners don't think so. And I kind of agree with them. So, man, something needs to happen here. But I think if he's out there for the Niners, he is going to play. I wouldn't necessarily worry about him like, my hamstring's done and gone for the year type of thing, unless it really happens.
Right. So, okay. So, Jason, from a fantasy perspective, he's going at 37, Ayuk. Is that just a hard pass?
I haven't ever really liked Ayuk, so
I'm not
I'm gonna
asking
say
the right
yes.
guy.
Yeah, it's Debo. Like I've always been a Debo guy. They use him everywhere. It's hard not to like see that they clearly invested in him. They started using him as running back. Like him and CMC together work great. And so I understand that I mean, I believe people have potentially over exaggerated, but it could be very true that Ayuk is really in an ideal situation right now. And if he goes anywhere else, it does not look like he's going to have the same success that he's had in the 49ers franchise.
So, okay, I'll give you the other side of that because I actually am a big Brandon Ayuk fan, and I like his game coming out of college, and he's good. Like I am not worried about this conversation about he's good. He's very good. Now the issue is he has benefited from playing for a good team. So it would be interesting to see what happens if he was to go, like, say, to the Patriots. You know what I mean? Like, how good are you really? Let's see you do it with nothing. You know what I mean? We've never seen that. But I actually prefer Ayuk to Debo because I actually think Debo is just. I think Debo Samuel is one of the luckiest individuals that's ever existed. It's like just luck that
we
he
had
managed
this
to
debate
get.
last year.
What's that?
So we had this debate last year, and oddly
Yes.
enough, we were both right.
I know it was so frustrating that we had this. Mike, you and I had this exact argument for 20 minutes on a show, and then it ended in a bar bet that no one got to pay off because we were both correct. So annoying, so annoying that because I looked that up actually, and I was like, oh, we were both right. Crap. Like, well, that's not even good television. You know what I mean? We argued about that for 20 minutes, and then no one was right. No one was right or wrong. We were both correct. It was like, that's so annoying.
Yeah.
That rarely happens too. But yeah, we argued about this for a while, and I made my case about how I thought Brandon Ayuk was like the real, actual wide receiver you want because he's a true wide receiver. And Deebo Samuel is just the luckiest human being that's ever existed, who manages to like get a star wide receiver contract, get hurt, play running back, and then like not even be that good. And then he's whining about not getting enough money, and I'm like, oh my God, shut up. Now here's what's funny about that is it ended up not mattering at all because they both paid you off for fantasy. So for this year, I actually will tell you I'm a lot higher on Debo this year because of Mason actually summarizes it pretty well with the question. Will Deebo Samuel be the first wide receiver to request a trade after leading the league in targets? Because if Ayuk sits out, that's probably what you're looking at. And I actually don't disagree with him. And in that case, now, will Debo play the whole year? Probably not, in my opinion, but I don't know that. And I'm just speculating. So the whole issue is that if Ayuk actually does sit out, I think Debo to the moon. I think Debo is an incredible value at 31 overall if Ayuk was sitting out. And I think you would see his ADP adjust rapidly. He would go up a full round. And even then, I might be okay with it. So you're going to have that problem. Like, if Ayuk sits,
taken in the first round,
it's annoying, right? If Ayuk sat and we knew it, Deebo Samuel would be like one of the biggest values in fantasy in 2024. But we don't know that. So what I've actually been telling people is just take him because I think you're still getting a good deal. You're still getting him in the third round, and he's one of the rare third rounders that actually has real upside. Yeah. So just do it.
From the perspective of because I agree, like to the moon if no Ayuk, but let's just assume Ayuk signs tomorrow and something. And the reason why I always liked Debo a little bit more is because of the carries. Because this offense, you look at everyone in this offense, I think Ayuk led them with like 110 targets. Like
he was the team leader in targets. Yeah.
He also played normally every week.
He also played every week except when Debo didn't because he never does.
Yeah, and normally, your target leader is 120, 130. So there's not a lot of targets to go around when you have CMC and Kittle and Debo and Ayuk. I mean, you just look at Ayuk's numbers from 2022. He had basically on a per game basis because he did miss one last year, I think, when they sat him down at the end of the year. Basically, about the same targets. About the same targets.
I forgot about that. That did happen.
Yeah. But they had, similar targets, 114 in 2022 to 105 in 2023, 78 catches to 75 catches. It was exactly the same, 8 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns. The only difference was he was extremely efficient. And can he do it again? That's my only concern is like in the range of Ayuk is what he did in 2022, which is 80 catches, 1,000 yards. So that's always why I lean Debo, but I was definitely proven wrong as well because I didn't think we would see Ayuk with 1,300, 1,350 yards and a season like that. So
Yeah, that's where I was
yeah.
correct, is that Brandon Ayuk would ascend and have a great season. But where I was wrong was that I thought that would be at the expense of Debo. And what we learned is that when they're both out there, they can both be successful.
Yeah.
And actually, weirdly, it's Kittle is the one who becomes the part that kind of suffers because they use him to block. And I get why, because George Kittle is amazing at blocking.
And he
it's
likes
just
it.
that he likes it, but it just so happens that he's also really good at route running. So it's like what we've learned here is that George Kittle deserves more money to advertise sunglasses. That's what we really learned is that he's just really good at football in general. And he's very versatile. And when they're both healthy, they can use them both. And we also did see that they were limiting Debo's carries with CMC healthy. They weren't just doing that. They weren't like, which has been my theory for a long time, that that's necessity based. It's not that they want to do that. It's that they kind of need to. And if they want to sprinkle it in, they're okay with that. But they're not trying to do what they did with him in like 21, 22, where it was like, get back there and pound the rock, Debo. Like, no, that was necessity based. They had to do that because they didn't have anything else.
They do use him around the goal line a lot, which is why he had the 5 rushing touchdowns, 8 in 2021. So like,
right.
They're going to use him in the goal around the goal line on running the ball and jet.
He'll always get a little bit of that, but they're not going to use him between the tackles unless they have to because they don't want him to get hurt. They paid him all that money; it's too risky. So this is one where for this year, I think to crystallize this, Debo Samuel, yes, at current ADP, like slam dunk. Brandon Ayuk, might let that be somebody else's problem. I'm not going to sit here and say don't do it because we just don't know. And that's why we delayed this show because it's pretty obvious we're not going to know. But just know that if you're going to do this, that you might wind up spending a 4th round pick on somebody who sits out the year for whatever reason. And then the last note from Mason is that if Ayuk returns and is happy and paid, it's all good. But if not, their roster construction kind of suffers because they're not deep at wide receiver and they might really struggle with no left tackle, no Ayuk, no like CMC gets hurt. That team goes in the dumpster.
Oh yeah, for
sure. That
sure.
team goes in the dumpster aggressively.
And then the person who becomes the biggest target is going to be George Kittle.
George Kittle and Debo for as long as he's healthy.
Well, you're talking about it being a line issue. Kittle's going to be closer.
Yes, but they will make it a point to get Debo the ball on screens and whatever else with Dobbs. They will do that. We've seen that before. I reference what Mike's talking about, the 2021 version of this team, when they had nothing. And it was just garbage. And it was like, and they were still decent with garbage. Hence how this whole movie started years ago with them actually getting good players. And then it turned into, well, when they have good players, this team goes to the Super Bowl regularly. Like, that's where it is. But yeah, if Williams sits and doesn't play, Ayuk does the same thing, and we're back to rickety O-line, questionable quarterback, and then one running back injury happens, ooh, this team looks very different, and it gets ugly quickly to the point where I think you'll start seeing people making business decisions about whether or not they want to go out and deal with this.
It's like the only quarterback situation that like the running back is so valuable to like Brock Purdy being a good fantasy quarterback or not. It's crazy.
Weirdly, the second place for that is actually Daniel Jones. And those teams are on very different trajectories. Like that's literally the second one is Daniel Jones. Giants run ball, Daniel Jones do good. Giants no run ball, Daniel Jones do bad. Very bad. It's jarring to see how much of a difference it makes. And yeah, Purdy's kind of a similar thing. World's better than Daniel Jones in his own right, but needs a running game. Needs CMC to be out there because if they're not going to respect the run game and they're going to start blitzing on every play, with no Williams, I should say, by they, I mean opposing defenses.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's going to be bad. People going to get hurt. That's going to be ugly. So that's the problem with this team right now, is that they're starting to get to that point where a lot of good teams get to, where the cap becomes an issue. I know people are like, there's no salary cap in the NFL. And I'm like, no, there is. It's just not the way that fans want it to work, where the salary cap is like this hard line that it's like, no, you're bad now. That's what fans want, like instant reaction. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. And I think it's actually working the way the league wants it to work, where it's like, no, it's a 4 to 5 year thing where you can flirt with it. And then the consequences start to happen. Like, look at what the Chargers were able to do for like 4 years, where they just played fast and loose with the cap, and then it finally blew up. Saints have been doing it for years. The Saints might actually be like teaching the college class on how to manage the NFL salary cap in the most a-hole way possible. Like they are like second to none as far as I'm concerned when it comes to shenanigans with the salary cap. Like, they're amazing at it. Most teams couldn't get away with paying Taysom Hill all that money and still actually being like a somewhat competitive team, and the Saints manage it. So it's like, but they're going to hit the wall too with the Carr contract. That was the death stroke, was giving all that money to Carr. But I digress. Like, at some point, that team. What do you think? Like 2 more years, and then that team's got to blow it up. Might be 1 more year.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna have that Carr contract. They're gonna get that Taysom Hill contract off the books. And I told Mason this. I hope he enjoys wearing orange, because it's gonna happen. I ruined Mason's whole day by explaining to him that next year that his contract's over and that Taysom Hill will be in Denver. Because the only reason he's not in Denver right now is because Denver didn't have the cap for it. But he's going to come off that contract, and no one's ever going to want to give him another contract like that. So he'll go back to his boyfriend and then come play here for a couple years as the Joker role. Ruined Mason's whole day.
Well, and to be fair, they don't really have a tight end there, so might as well.
Well, they do in theory.
Okay.
It's Greg Dulcich in theory. Will that actually happen? I don't know. And then it's Adam Trotman. Because wherever Sean Payton goes, Adam Trotman will go with him. Because Adam Trotman is very smart. And I don't just say that because we graduated from the same alma mater. Although I'm not saying that because we graduated from the same alma mater. No, very smart man. He knows that as long as he just shows up and does whatever Sean Payton says, that he always has a job. I would stay away from Ayuk. Honest to God, I could crystallize this whole conversation with I would draft CMC, and I would draft the guy we're going to talk about next. But I would wait to draft the guy we're going to talk about next 3 rounds after his ADP, because you probably can. And that guy's George Kittle. So they have some tight ends here. George Kittle opens as the tight end 6. His ADP is 65. I'm telling you right now, in every draft I've been in this year, you can wait until the 8th round to get Kittle. I'm telling you that right now. It's every draft. You can wait 2 full rounds to get Kittle. I don't know who you're playing with who's taking Kittle in the 6th round. My advice is, if somebody wants to do that, let him. Don't bother.
Finished his tight end 5 last year.
He did. And as someone who rosters a lot of Kittle, it would make you want to pull your hair out. But at the end of the year, yeah. 35, 3, 22, 31. That's your life with George Kittle. And I will say, if Ayuk sits down, throw everything out I just said. Throw it all in the trash. Because George Kittle's a top 3 tight end if Ayuk's not playing.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
13 fantasy points a week guaranteed.
Am I wrong? Tell me I'm wrong. Like, we saw this before they had 2 wide receivers. They need a guy to catch passes. When they only have 1 wide receiver because of injury or because of roster construction, it's Kittle. When they have 2 guys who can catch with CMC, Kittle blocks.
You want to know how many yards Kittle had in the 2 games Debo missed last year?
Oh God, it's like 300, right?
Yeah, it's a little less than that. I mean, it's 240, 14 catches.
Yeah, 300 is like a sarcastic number, Mike, because you would need 150 yards per. Like, it's a sarcastic number I threw out, but that's the reason I did that is because I knew I was high, but only a little bit, which is the messed up thing. That's the messed up thing about that.
He had 150 in one of those games.
He did.
So it's like it's capable. He's capable of that, So yeah, he's If one of those guys are out, he's awesome. Maybe tight end 1, you could argue.
He's in the conversation. So you just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So yeah, Kittle to the moon if Ayuk's not playing. If he is, and you won't know, I'd wait 2 rounds on Kittle and try to get him in the 8th. If somebody wants him in the 6th, go nuts. Mason notes with the potential holdout, this becomes more attractive. And it's like Mason feels that he is the value grab of the draft. I can see why he thinks that, but Mason is adamant that Ayuk is holding out. I am less convinced of this. If I knew that Ayuk was holding out for real, then yes, I would agree with this statement, but not yet. For now, the value grab of the draft is actually still Josh Palmer.
Yes.
Don't know why.
Gotta love it.
Don't know
Because
why.
nobody thinks it's gonna happen. Everybody.
But I
believes
would
in the
recommend
monkey.
I recommend drafting like CMC, but that's not helpful because he's the 1.1. Debo is a great value, just in general this year, and then Kittle is the 3rd, and I don't really want anything else.
Yeah,
Sounds good to me.
I'm right there with you. Yeah, fade.
Perfect.
Fade
There's
IU.
your 49. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. They're perfect. That's your 49ers for this year. And if you want to leave. Turn this off. I don't care. Because now I'm going to do a special segment called Neil's Cut Down Targets. Or I'm sorry. We'll do better than that.
Oh gosh.
I got to do it without swearing. That's what's holding me down. I should just cut the show right here. We're going to do Neil. I got it. Neil's Cut Down Corner. Neil's Cut Down Corner, which we will do tomorrow as called the whole show. So if you want to leave. Steve, if you want to edit this out, edit it out. I don't care. Until then, keep up the nonsense. We'll see you tomorrow we'll see you on Friday for the wrap-up show, which is going up on the 31st. Check it out. It'll be awesome. And until then, keep up the nonsense. If you want to do Neil's Cut Down Corner, stay right here. Bonus segment for those of you who are motivated. Guess who the Chargers just cut? It just came across my feed. Guess who the Chargers just cut? Guess. You don't get to look. Guess. You don't get to look.
Well, I know they cut Spiller and Parham, so.
Oh, you knew it. It's Parham. They cut Donald Parham. After all the crap you've made me listen to over the years about Donald Parham, I hate you so much that now this is why I keep telling you that I don't want to do an hour on the Chargers for these where it gets into Chargers beat reporting because it doesn't matter. Because after years of you telling me that Donald Parham's going to be the starting tight end for my Chargers, yeah, they bleeping cut him. I hate you both. I hate you all. F you, and I'll see you tomorrow. That's well, there you go.
He was signed by Denver, so.
Oh, I hate everything. Oh, I've never been more angry. Good. You know what? Good.
They deserve it.
Good. I'll take your roster just so I don't have to have this conversation ever again. I had to sit here
every time now.
I had to sit here for 2 years and listen to Donald Parham's going to be the starting quarterback. Whatever. I'm so mad I can't even function. Like I've never been more angry than I am right now. That's not true, but it's few and far between. I have had to listen for 2 years as these people explain to me that Donald Parham is going to be the starting tight end for the Chargers, and then they cut him. You both, I'll never get that time back. That time is gone forever. You all owe me an hour and a half minimum of my life. That's what that is over a 2-year period. I am going to just deliberately start wasting your time so you know how it feels. We call that every week on Roster the People that I make Jason wait for stuff. There you go. I'm furious that you actually saw this before I did because I was hoping it would blindside you live on the air. And I read that and it made me so mad. Not because I give a crap about Donald Parham, but because I have had to be subjected to this for years. And then he's gone. You got any more Noah Gray takes you want to subject me to that we add this to the pile?
Well, per target, Parham had 11% touchdown rate. And if it's per reception, it's 16%. So That's what you're getting. Enjoy.
The Chiefs also cut Deneric Prince, which I actually thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
Because why bother? Like, what was the point? You just got him. What was the point of like doing any of that? That one's genuinely confusing. And that probably won't make the wrap-up show for tomorrow because he has no ADP, which is why it's part of Neil's cut down corner. Not nearly as animated or as funny as the Donald Parham thing, which is why I hope Steve leaves it in. But I was so mad. Like I've had to listen to this for how long? And then why did you sign Jarrett Patterson? What was the point of signing Jarrett Patterson on your team?
He's still there, man. I don't know. They got rid of Spiller. That's a plus, right?
No. Everything you do on that team makes me angry. You're still carrying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 wide receivers. It's mind-blowing.
Hey, speaking of 49ers related, Brandon Rice made the cut.
He did actually. Not related, but I so aggravated when I saw that they cut Donald Parham, and I'm like, it's 2 years of my life that I will never get back.
The funny thing
is just like it's one more gray hair on my ever thinning hairline.
The funny thing is, Neil, I legitimately posted this in our Discord at 1:11 today.
I don't think you understand how busy I am in the background. Like that I have not had a chance to read any of that. I'm too busy on the phone teaching people how to use Excel. Cut that, Steve. Cut that last little comment, please. But leave in the rant about Donald Parham, please, because it's legitimately funny. And that concludes Neil's cut down corner. Because I don't have anything else. So if you're still here for that, I thank you for coming to my little therapy session that needed to happen. And we will see you for the wrap-up show. And I hope that this has been of some value to you. And we would love it if you would like, comment, subscribe. Even if the comments are telling me that I'm an idiot. Get in line.
Wouldn't be the last time.
Yeah,
wouldn't be
the first time. Wouldn't be the last time. And until we catch you for the wrap-up show, keep up the nonsense.
I'm Tim Kitzer from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, and you can find all the guys at ImportantNonsense.com. Kaboom!